As the second day of his final week dawns, Jesus began plotting his course to the cross. He did not come to Jerusalem only to join the Passover celebration, but also to shake the foundations of the Jewish faith. He has come to set things right and to call the faithful to a new covenant that would be signed in his blood. Jesus and his disciples, when they ended Palm Sunday, they returned to Bethany. The next morning, as they made their way to Jerusalem, Jesus first interacts with a fig tree. Funny, right? I know. But what makes this moment interesting is that in several of the Old Testament prophets, Jeremiah, Hosea, and Joel, the people of Israel are likened to a fig tree. In each case, the fruit of the fig tree represents the faith of God's chosen people. In Jeremiah, the tree is barren. In Hosea, the tree has hope to produce fruit. In Joel, the tree itself is broken. And with Jesus, this tree is empty. Jesus stops at the tree to make a point. As he curses the fruitless tree, he was signifying to his disciples his disappointment over the fruitless faith he has found in Jerusalem, pronouncing judgment on God's people before making his way again to the Holy Temple. As Jesus and his disciples entered the city again, the excitement of the day before had not yet faded. The crowds were watching Jesus to see what he would do. There were many expectations for this long-awaited Messiah. Some thought he would bring back the glory of the nation of Israel and usher in a time of political might. Others saw the Messiah as a corrector of injustice, ready to defend the poor and raise up his broken people. Still others expected a prophet and a religious leader who would help Israel return to her glorious place as the people of God under his rule and law. But as the true Messiah, Jesus shattered all those expectations, turning their anticipation on its head by challenging the Jewish religious leaders. The morning of Jesus' second day in Jerusalem, upon entering the city, Jesus heads straight for the temple. You see, the night before he left to go to Bethany, Jesus had visited the temple to pray and reflect. He was disappointed with the scene he witnessed. The temple was flooded with vendors who were selling animals and religious articles needed for sacrifice and worship, as well as the money changers exacting the tax for both the temple and the Roman authorities. Jesus, for the second time in his earthly ministry, he drives out the sellers and the vendors out of the temple courts. His zeal for God's house caused holy anger to rise as he watched it being used for shameful gain. What was once a bastion of worship and a symbol of the glory of God had been reduced to a den of thieves, preying on the people of God to gain wealth in this world. Jesus drove them out, ridding the temple of its religious corruption and restoring it to its proper use, also condemning the religious leaders who were complacent and most likely benefiting from the misuse of God's house. Once order was restored to the temple, Jesus began to teach. And for the following days of the Holy Week, the temple is where people would find him, teaching scripture and challenging tradition. As we celebrate day 2 of the Holy Week, we must remember how fiercely Jesus protected worship in the house of the Lord and his hatred for anything that would corrupt it. Let us tremble at his power and reflect on the purity of worship in our own hearts as we continue to behold the scenes of Easter.